those of you who are here this morning, yeah, I mentioned that I'd long wanted to do this tomato challenge to actually see how many people would be interested in taking a plant and see if they could keep it growing. I'm not going to name any names of even people in my own company that sometimes forget you have to water things and you have to make sure they have sunlight and some basics like that. And as was referenced in our previous discussion, we know that sometimes people just are so removed from the basics of food production that they've forgotten how to even put a seed in the ground and how to bring that all the way to a fruit or a vegetable or any other crop. And so I was very fortunate to have Senator Melissa Hurtado help facilitate the handout on Earth Day we had 26 different participants, and thanks to Bare Vegetable Seeds and Jenny Maloney, who likes to dive into the deep end of things that we don't really know how we're going to end up. But we thought, well, maybe we'll have 10 or 12 people that were interested. But they brought some extra little early girl tomatoes, and we ran out. Actually, 25 went away right away, and then Speaker Rivas' staff showed up, so he got his own delivered later. But I thought it would be important to explore this topic a little bit more and to announce our winner here, what we learned, and just what goes into the difficult process of trying to develop seeds and plants that we can utilize given the situation that we have both with labor conditions and then of course different end uses, whether processing or fresh. So here on the far end, Jenny Maloney from Bare Vegetable Seeds. And then another champion for local foods, Patrick Mulvaney, many of you may know, who's the head chef and owner of Mulvaney's B&L. We're looking forward to having dinner there later. And then the guy behind it all, Chad Jorgensen, who's a tomato breeder for Bare Crop Science Vegetables. So Chad, I'm going to start with you. Talk to us just a little bit about how long does it take to develop different traits, and what are you excited about in your work right now?
Yeah, so it takes quite a while to develop a hybrid that we're going to release, and whatever traits that we're looking at is really dependent on what type of customer we're really looking at. So it could take up to 10 years to develop a specific hybrid for a given market. So we're looking at different customers. We're of course seeing transplanting going on here in California for the processing market. So eventually we'll see harvest happening. So eventually we'll see tomatoes on the side of the road. And then we will be planting also in greenhouses continuously. So those are a totally different type of a hybrid that would take, that's going to a completely different type of a customer. Then we would also look at something like early grow, which is more of a specialty. And so those are going to be something that are going to be planted across the entire United States. So they're going to need to have a really complex package of disease resistances because we don't really know where they're going to be planted. So we're really going to have to look into exactly what we're going to be putting in from the parent side, from the male side, and from the female side in order to make sure that it's adaptable across the country. There are a lot of things that are really interesting to me right now, like thinking about maybe kind of copying some of the things that we've seen in labor reductions in the fresh market area, so that we can harvest tomatoes a whole lot easier, and then grow tomatoes so that they don't fall to different of the say the diseases that we have, kind of like the COVID that we have. We have a really nasty virus out there, so that's a big challenge that we have right now that I think that Bare's working really hard on.
Thank you. Patrick, so share with us just a little bit about your role in trying to make Sacramento the farm-to-fork capital of the world.
Well, first, I think it'd be hard to eat a tomato from 6 feet away, so I hope they don't all have COVID. So, yeah, I moved here in 30 years ago now, and for graduate school at UC Davis in food science. And I've been a chef for 45 years. And I got to graduate school, and they hated me and I hated them. And so I dropped out of the first year. But what I found was that I found myself in the middle of the richest agricultural region in the world. And I got a chance to meet farmers and growers and researchers and people who really cared about food and where it came from and how it changed their communities. And as a restaurateur, I always wanted a restaurant because I knew that restaurants are a place where you come to break bread and change conversations. And by changing conversations, sorry, new dentures, you can change the community. And so we started a long time ago and just pushing that. And in the beginning, for sure, a lot of people were saying, you're a chef, what the hell are you doing on my farm? Or you're a chef, what the hell are you doing in City Hall? Right? Or you're a chef, what are you doing in my bank or my hospital? Or these other things. But I kept saying, food is everywhere, right? Like the senator said, if you're not thinking about your food, then maybe you're not paying enough attention. And for me, it's just always been, if you guys in the ag world don't make the food, then I have nothing to do, right? And I have no way of doing what we're doing. And so we started pushing hard. And 2010, Mayor Johnson said, Patty, what do you think about Farm to Fork as a capital, as a name? And I said, not much, and I hung up. And then the next day I called him back and I said, okay, sorry, Kevin, here's what I really think, is that this region, Sacramento, my definition of Sacramento, Bakersfield to Redding and Tahoe to the ocean, so welcome to all the suburbanites, is that we are agriculture, and agriculture is important, right? And for years I've been asking people at the Capitol to say, who's the food guy and why isn't it? So it really pisses me off that the ag committee isn't important, because everybody needs to eat 3 times a day. So anyway, we kept doing it, and we pushed and started talking about that, and then said, let's have a party. And we had a party and said, let's have a big dinner on Capitol Mall. And they said, why not the bridge? And then the people who ran the bridge said, no fucking way. And which to a chef means, oh yeah, I got you. And so we worked, right? And we did all those things. And so now we've had that thing for 10 years, and there's 20 acres of urban ag in West Sac, and we talk to people from Bayer and Monsanto and bring farmers in all the time. And my restaurant is, in some way, I hope for my restaurant, when it's at its best, is a place where what the senator said is bring people in to see what it is that you guys do out in the world. Our hope is that every day what we're doing is showcasing the best of what comes from Sacramento, from my version of Sacramento, from California, and start to push that out. And we do get a chance to keep pushing that out. And then just a few weeks ago, we had folks from Slow Food in Italy. They're about good, clean, fair food for all. In September, they'll have a festival where they expect 365,000 people to talk about food in Turin, Italy. They signed a 10-year contract to come to California, to Sacramento, for every other year, in odd years for the next 10 years here. So we expect that every other year we'll have at least 100,000 people here talking about food, but for me, coming here so that we get to show off all the cool stuff that you guys do.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for being a judge. And Jenny, talk about the process that we went through and about the judging here, and then we can bring up our winner.
Yeah, so I love it when Sarah, after a reception, this happened to be at Western Growers, after a couple drinks, she says, hey, I have a crazy idea. And then, of course, I have to say yes, because the craziest ideas are always the best ones. So Sarah, for a long time, has talked to me about how do we get people to understand more about how our food is grown, because if you grow your own food, you have a different appreciation for how hard it is, and then really for when you grow your own food and you get to that point where it's, a big ripe tomato, how great it tastes when you harvest it. And so she said, what if we got California legislators, got them tomato transplants, because Sarah's a summer tomato lover, and got them to try and grow their own food, and had a contest. And then I said, yeah, and it was great. And then, we went home from that meeting, and then about 2 months ago, she said, okay, are you still ready to do this? And I said, yes, absolutely. So it was great. We have our home garden varieties, the Early Girl, which allow you to get your tomatoes earlier. And as Sarah mentioned, George Goff was really instrumental in passing those out and had a huge interest from legislators, which was amazing. And so then we put together, I put on like my 4-H hat on like tomato evaluation, and I pulled an old record book to see how things were graded in the past. And we put together a sheet for the legislators and their staff to really measure the progress of their plan. And we asked them questions too, like what's your watering schedule, and what amount of sunlight, are you inside or outside? And we asked them questions about, are you using synthetic fertilizer or non-synthetic fertilizer? Do you have any pest pressure? And just to get them to start thinking about the things that growers face every day. There was a comment earlier that I just have to mention about how California growers don't use IPM, and I think that's totally incorrect because they use it every day. And so it was another opportunity for the people growing the plants to see how they were using, in their own way, integrated pest management to grow these plants. So we had them submit pictures. Some people submitted video. And it was a good reminder to me. So we sent them to our judges, Karen Ross. It was these two gentlemen and Karen, Secretary Ross, and they had video. People had pictures. And there was a couple of people in there that had really, really great stories about really sort of an intimate relationship with their tomato plant, I would say, and funny. And a couple of them named their plants. And so I think, Sarah and I said, even if we just touch a couple of people to learn how to be more closely tied to how their food is grown, and as the senator mentioned, talking about understanding City Hall or those type of things, I think we've seen numerous studies where when we do nutrition education or ag education with kids, they're more likely to consume more fruits and vegetables. So it's sort of a win-win. It's an education piece, but then also hopefully getting people to eat more tomatoes, Early Girls or any other variety. But yeah, it was a great opportunity, and I appreciate, Sarah, you coming up with the idea.
Well, thank you. And I know you've seen some of new people come into the building here, so I'd like to really bring our winner up on stage next. And it's interesting, I was at a California Women for Agriculture meeting, and I had the honor of meeting Assemblymember Reginald Byron Jones Sawyer at that, and I was struck by just how ag-friendly he was. So please come on up to the stage and recognize our winner of the Great Tomato Challenge.
Ladies and gentlemen, the champ.
So, am I supposed to speak now? You never give a mic to an elected official, so you never know what you'll get. I'm just going to let you know right now, as an assembly member from South Central Los Angeles, and if you haven't noticed, I'm African American, and I'm from the urban part, and I'm the longest serving member on the Ag Committee right now. There is no one else that's served on the Ag Committee longer than me. And so when you gave us the plant, and I say us, it became a labor of love from everybody in the office. Also, with a lot of arguments. And I'll just tell you one argument. As we started this journey to try to grow Stanley, don't ask me why we call our female plant Stanley, but one of our members said, I was watching Stanley Tucci and his road show, and the tomatoes were so great and so vibrant and beautiful, we'd ought to call the plant Stanley. And that's why we call the plant Stanley. And everyone worked to make sure that not only did Stanley survive, but Stanley would thrive. And so the city folk had to be told by the people that really understand ag, we had to calm us down. Because when I saw bugs, I grabbed the Raid can. It was like, no, we don't do that to Stanley. We're going to be much nicer to Stanley than that. And they noticed that we had some praying mantis on the plant. And so I'm getting ready to flick the plant, because I'm from the city, And they go, no, 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 they're natural predators to these bugs, and they're natural to nature in making sure that they will protect the plant and make sure that it will grow and thrive. And so we have 2 or 3 mantises that we've also kind of nurtured with this plant so that we could grow it. And I think we brought the plant with us to kind of show. We are extremely, obviously we're extremely proud of the award. But we're really more proud and impressed on what we did. And for a lot of people that are from the Sacramento area and just people who aren't used to growing things, this idea you had was a great idea. Not only did it get us involved in understanding, farm to fork, but the competition, you have no idea, the competition between elected officials is intense. There are people from the ag regions that want to recall on the votes right now that don't believe that I actually won. And so we brought the plant so that we'd actually show the tomatoes and how it's growing. I don't know what the others look like. I don't know what kind of care they went into it, but evidently we documented, because they also showed us the pictures of how it progressed, which is really, really important. Because I think each office, whether they're successful or not, can now see that it's not easy to do what you do. Because that's the other thing. We just think you throw some seeds in the ground, Johnny Appleseed, and it grows like Jack and the Beanstalk. That's not how it's done. There's a lot of work that goes on into just getting this. I mean, a lot of work. And so I'm extremely proud that we won, but I'm also really proud of my entire staff and how we worked real hard to make sure that Stanley would be here today with you and looking all, isn't she beautiful? And so I want to thank you for this. And then the award, the money that goes back into my local community or to a food bank that actually will go ahead and also teach how to do farm to fork is very important because we do have some small groups in there that actually do this, and we need to expand it. We need to connect you with them so that they can grow and they can be able to bring those fresh fruits to people in South Central Los Angeles, because it really is, not only are we park poor, but we're grocery store poor, and it is so important that we get these great foods and vegetables that are grown in California. I mean, that's what makes me so proud that it's from California. And we grow the best fruits and vegetables in the world. And so I will continue to support you. And I think the Assembly, now that you've done this, will continue to support you. So again, thank you for this. This is really a great honor.
Well, thank you, Assemblyman, and thank you and your whole team for participating and for sharing that competition with others. And I just want to, I want to make sure, and Jenny, you can comment on this, that everybody knows it was a blind judging competition. People knew about the number, but we had no names associated with this. Jenny, if you want to.
Yeah, and I was the only person that saw the names associated with it, and I did see some of the Central Valley contestants, and when I saw the final numbers yesterday and sent them to Sarah, I thought, there's going to be some people mad.
Absolutely. And I think that it's so important that you're sharing not only this with us, but in your experience, but that your staff had the opportunity, because I know when the members were in picking out their tomato, some of them said, well, I've never done this before. Like, where do I start? And what do I do? And, you know, my grandma had one of these, but, you know, how do I take care of it? So sounds like there might have been some of those discussions that went on with different participants.
Yes, and we went on the internet. I mean, there also was a competition of who had the best idea on how to get this done, and obviously the better ideas won out. And this is my last year in the Assembly, and the reason why staff participating. Why it's so important, because I will be leaving the staff behind me, and they will then take on, be able to, if you do this again, guess what? The winners will be on somebody else's staff, and they will be even, the competition will be even more fierce than ever before. And so it is also really important not only to get the members involved, but to get their staffs involved, because they're here a lot longer than we are.
So just as we wrap up here, Chad and Patrick, any other observations about the judging that you could share? I know that we were sure to hand out the protocol and how plants would be judged, but I know people get busy, and then we probably should have resent it to them again. Some people were pruning their plant, for example, to make sure that whatever tomato they did have got bigger than the rest. And Chad and Patrick, if you want to share any other observations from the judging.
Sure. One thing that I really appreciated about this packet that I did see was the relationship with Stanley. You could definitely tell that there was that relationship, and as a breeder, I do realize that there is a relationship with the growers and a variety, that we really have to understand that relationship in order to understand what really drives decisions with growers and what they end up deciding to grow and what's important to them. The other thing was about pruning. You brought up specifically. I do remember one packet where a member said that they were worried that they didn't understand about pruning, that they're like, oh, it's going to affect my final score negatively. But to me, it really showed that there was some forethought into pruning in order to get a good marketable product. It might not have given them the maybe the plant height, but that was an assumption that plant height, the higher always meant better. And so we do have some markets where they want really literally 30 feet tall plants. But then processing tomatoes, they're on the ground. So there's all different types of tomatoes out there and all types of management processes that go into it. And so I love the fact that you guys did so much research into it, because it really is a thing that you really need to do, is put in your homework and figuring out what is the best practices. And I think that's super important to really be adopting the best practices for whatever your growing environment is and whatever your goals are.
The one thing I think we'll all miss is the final product, because we think the taste. There was a lot of discussion about making sure that whatever comes out of the ground, that it's the tastiest tomato you ever had in your entire life. And how do you get to that? How do you make sure that it's the most robust tomato you could ever have? And so we're going to continue to grow this, because we also, at the end of the journey, we want to see about the taste and compare it to what you get in the supermarket, because we think we'll probably have the tastiest tomato on the planet when we finish.
And that the best ingredient there is the love that you put into growing Stanley.
Oh, thank you.
Patrick?
No, he wins. That one. So I'm looking at the plant, and I'm reminded, our restaurant is seasonal, depending on what you guys bring in the front door is what goes on the menu. So I'm reminded that this is the season of not yet, right? So tomatoes, everyone in March starts saying, when are the tomatoes coming, when are the tomatoes coming? But we're hopeful that they're going to be there. And then you're right? What you did was make obviously a beautiful plant. She is a noble, majestic tomato, but it's the story, right? And the story of so for you guys, the story that you have all brought to the members and the staff, and for you, the story that you're bringing back out to the public is the thing I'll take away. And I think it's pretty cool, because it's true that we're going to eat tomatoes all summer. Here, you're going to have tomatoes in your food banks. We're going to have tomatoes in the hospital with Santana. You're going to have tomatoes in your house. You're going to have tomatoes everywhere. And I'm just happy to be part of a person that has a door that the tomatoes come in, and all the other great stuff you guys bring.
And I think, Patrick, you're also a fan of some of the people that sang to their tomatoes, perhaps, or are there a couple other? There was a Tina the tomato, I think, too. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, you and Chad and Secretary Ross, for judging. It's been a wonderful experience, and I think the one thing that does our heart good also is the fact that we wanted you to be able to have this donation to a food bank in your district. So we've got a this one's obviously not coming in the mail, but an honorary check. This donation's going to be made to the Avalon Carver Community Center Food Bank, and it's for $1,000 that will go to that food bank in your honor. So I don't know if there's anything you want to share about that particular one.
It is the area where this is going. The young kids that come and make sure that this community center is not only teaching kids about fruits and vegetables, it is providing them the kind of nutrition that they don't normally get. No disrespect to LAUSD, but they don't get the kind of food and beverages that they need at LAUSD all the time. And unfortunately, when they get home, their parents don't have the economic stability to provide them what they need as far as fresh fruits and vegetables. And nothing against McDonald's or other fast food places, but when that becomes your only source of nourishment, it's not right. And the Avalon Carver Community Center, also working with Carver Elementary School and other places, they ensure that at least we try to get these young kids the kind of nourishment that they need so they can grow up and become productive members of our California society. So this will go a long way to making sure that happens.
Thank you so much. And we'll maybe have you take a couple other photos later. But for now, let's all join in a glass of celebratory wine. So I hope you enjoyed not only this panel, but the entire day. We are so grateful for all of you being here, for engaging in these discussions, for enabling Agri-Pulse to be your source of farm and food policy information. And right outside is our customer appreciation reception, so we look forward to toasting you in just a little bit. Thank you.